all up. Normally, I don't speak to adults. My claim to fame is working with young people who I just thoroughly enjoy and learn so much from. They have been the bane of my existence. I think the best way to put it is I became director of a camp on Pleasant Lake in the Maine woods out of an idea. That inspiration occurred in 1993 at a dinner party in Washington, D.C. A gentleman named John Wallach, he was a novelist, a columnist for the Hearst papers, and a CNN contributor. He decided on something. Took a lot of guts. At the dinner party, he talked to the ambassadors of Israel and Egypt, the charge of affairs of Palestine, and asked them if they would send 15 boys each, ages 13 and 14, to a camp in Maine called Powhatan Boys Camp on Pleasant Lake in Otisfield, Maine, in late August. They agreed. But John, being smart, went home and wrote it in his column for the next day. So they couldn't back out. In 1994, Queen Noor, very patient but impatient woman, decided young women would be admitted, and they were. Seeds of Peace is now 27 years old. 7,500 young people have spent time in the Maine woods. They have been a part of a camp doing camp activities. Swimming, softball, gaga, group challenge. But most importantly, one special thing. It was called dialogue. For 90 minutes a day, they converse with each other, with professional facilitators. This evolved over time from the program that was dominant from camp to a year-round program. A program that young people keep working at the things they learned at camp in their homes, in their countries. All of that was because of that beginning with John Wallach. John Wallach would speak to the young people and he would say, make one friend. And he'd add a little bit to it and he would say, the enemy has a face. On my end, my job was to speak every once in a while. And I would say, there are 3 legs on a stool. So you've got to learn how to communicate, you've got to learn how to trust, and you've got to learn how to respect each other. More importantly, you've got to learn how to listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. If he'd meant it the other way, it would have been. Those things came from my parents and life itself. And that was my part in the evolution of this program. I could go on and on about the 7,500 younger people who have impressed me over time, but guess what? It would take the rest of this program and then longer. Let me explain by giving these examples. Tamer, who's a lawyer, after the Arab Spring, he's a person who's still working with the Egyptians. Delisle is the vice president of the American and Arab University in Ramallah. Corey is a Passamaquoddy lawyer. He is now in Maine working on Maine Native American issues. And finally, there are two young women, Naisa and Priscilla, who have created a program called Civil Tea. It helps young people who have difficult conversations in their schools. These young people are amazing. They're the epitome of what John wanted, what he stood for, what he believed in. In Maine, we have had some amazing things occur with our young people. They've had summits on youth mental health, racism, and education. The education one was really something else. They got invited to go down to Harvard, to the third-year law students, to speak about the solutions and the things they found out. That was to Professor Charles Ogletree's third-year law class. When the kids finished, one student jumped up in the back and he said, "Tree, those guys gave a better presentation than we've had all year." That's very special. But again, it's about young people working together to do things that sometimes people think can't be done. In today's world, when we talk about peace, everybody goes, but peace is important to these young people who work around the world. It isn't inviting right now. It is difficult. But these kids aren't going to quit. That's John's legacy. Right now, seeds are running Seeds of Peace. The alumni have moved up the ladder. As was stated, the OG's times have moved on. We have a young woman in Israel. Her name is Mayang. She's the director of the Israeli program. A young man in Palestine, his name is Bashar. He now runs the Palestinian program. And the camp director of SOP is Sarah B. These are the future for Seeds of Peace. This is how it's going to evolve. This is the legacy of John. John passed away in 2002. We who still stand and are still here miss him, but he's honored by the young people who are continuing to develop what he believed in and what he stood for. At the present time, we sometimes forget that young people are so important in this world. But are we willing to allow them to lead in this time? At this time, are we willing to allow them to lead? Thank you.